frame for these people reporting out so that we won't quite finish on time. Dr. Villette, do I get to, what time were we were supposed to end at, Emma, what? Okay. So you're group 2, Krista? What group were you? Group 2. Group 1? Okay. So this really is an opportunity where we get to wrap everything up at the end of the day. I think we all had thoughts after each session, and then we move on to the next one rather rapidly. So what I'm going to do is we'll have an opportunity for people to have between 5 and 7 minutes to summarize and to report out. My guess is we are not going to do questions. It's an opportunity for us to listen. My goal for you would be to jot down any notes that kind of capture what you're thinking so that throughout the day and throughout the work session we can do that. Are you going to say something?
Just quickly.
Yep. I'll turn the mic over to my boss.
And I'm not making up time in the air. Okay. People, remember that after this session, we have the dinner, UNESCO dinner. So please don't disappear. We will move from here to the room next door. And there's going to be a presentation on the SADC teacher competencies, so the teacher standards, the framework for teacher standards in SADC. So please, everybody's invited to that event. All right? Thank you.
So this is how we will proceed, and I'm just going to let our rapporteurs and reporters know. We're going to first talk about theme 1, and then we'll move to theme 2, because those were separate. And then in the breakout groups, they talked about both themes, and I felt they should be in the middle after that, and then we'll listen to the report from UNICEF. So Dr. let me just say it right, Kadila. I'm going to give you, and I'm going to keep time.
Good afternoon, colleagues. I'm going to summarize the discussions that Prof. Lowe shared with us. Then Ms. Tienkamp responded to that. Prof. Lowe highlighted or unpacked the concept of competencies, which encompass knowledge, skills, attitudes, and values that we need to inculcate in our teachers. And she also alluded to the challenges that are facing the teacher of the 21st century. And she made a reference to, or she used the term complexity. So meaning that our teachers are operating in a very complex environment today than ever before, due to challenges that are triggered by factors such as globalization, urbanization, ICTs, and so forth. Then she also shared with us some top 10 skills of the 21st centuries that the World Economic Forum has identified. These are, just to mention a few: complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, people management, and so forth. So now the question is, what are the implications for teacher training for those graduate attributes? So we need, as we consider our curriculum, whether we develop new curricula or we review, so we need to incorporate those graduate attributes. So as the World Economic Forum identified them, they are generic, they are cross-cutting, so they apply to any graduate, but we need to find a way of incorporating them in our teacher training programs. Then she also mentioned 3 important competencies for teachers. That is 1, transformative. Our teachers need to be transformative, meaning that they need to be knowledge creators rather than just knowledge transmitters. So this will be possible if our teachers are encouraged to engage in research rather than just teaching the content that is already documented in textbooks. They must also become knowledge creators. There is also a term, reconciling tension and dilemmas, and taking responsibility. So our teachers need to have a strong sense of morale. Then these were generic remarks that she made. Then she gave a practical experience of Singapore, whereby she shared with us that her government spends a lot of capital in human resource development. And a large part of that goes to education in general and teacher education in particular. And the strategy is they don't only take anyone because there are no opportunities elsewhere to become teachers, but they recruit teachers who have a heart to become teachers. So the strategy is to recruit from the best or with the right attitude. So they look at the top, for example, they look at the top 30% of the performers. And they also have a system whereby they do selection interviews to identify the best for the teaching profession. There are also incentives attached to this, whereby teacher trainees, they get some form of allowance, monthly allowance in the pre-service training, and their remuneration in terms of salaries, they are also lucrative, so that they attract the best, comparable to your lawyers, your nurses, your lawyers, your doctors, engineers, and so forth. Then she shared with us the vision that they have for teacher education, which includes being creators of knowledge, being facilitators rather than transmitters of knowledge, be able to shape character, and being leaders of change rather than just followers. Then they also have what they call or the term 4 lives, which includes lifelong, life-wise, life-deep, and life-wide. At this point, in the interest of time, I'm not going to unpack those. Then they have a future readiness program or future ready program for teachers, which includes some of the things we already shared. Being a teacher as a transformational teacher who is strong in theory and practice, innovative, self-directed. Then they also technology, they tap from technology advancement. They are also involved in community engagement practices and professional practice. Then moving to the respondent, Ms. Steenkamp. So she agreed with most of the issues that the keynote speakers shared with us. Then particularly she alluded to activities that are going on in the right direction. For example, the curriculum reform and many conferences, including this one and the ODL conference that just ended. Then she also shared with the audience that the government of the Republic of Namibia is also committed to investment in education, whereby about 21% of the national budget goes to education, but unfortunately about 80% goes to salaries and only 12% left for operations and 5% left for capital projects. Then she also highlighted some few challenges that we are faced with as a country, issues of large classes, lack of specialized teachers, and the fact that about 11% of our teachers are either underqualified or unqualified. So these are some of the few notes that I have picked from the discussions. I'm not going to go through all of them in the interest of time. Thank you very much.
So, Professor Lowe, you were worried that people wouldn't necessarily catch everything you said because you were speeding, and you did a fabulous job summarizing all of what she spoke about, so thank you very much. So now we're going to move on to theme 2, and Dr. Kamwanya is going to do that, and we made a deal. I'm going to leave him my clock, if I can figure out technology here, and he will manage his time.
That means I'm under pressure.
You are under pressure.
All right.
You're making up time in the air. Give yourself 8 minutes.
Okay. Good afternoon, colleagues. I'm going to give a report on theme 2. The keynote speaker was the extinguished Prof. Johnson, and the respondent was Dr. Herta Pomuti. The prof, first of all, he challenged us with a question, and that question was, what are the scientific principles that should govern learning or education for that matter? And then he also made a statement that we cannot talk about 21st century education or teacher if government does not provide resources, infrastructures to support the process. He also, I think in response to what Ms. Sonette raised in her remarks, he also talked about the importance of policies that are linked to reality, in the sense that when government is coming up with policies, it should mirror the situation on the ground. Then he moved to which I think the most important of the message that he gave us in terms of the characteristic of the 21st century teacher. So the first one is that the first century teacher is one who expresses a single-minded passion and commitment to teaching. I'm just going to get my water. Some of us need something to support. So that that a teacher who expresses a single-minded passion and commitment to teaching as a first career of choice. And this is the issue of that, the teacher is a calling, is not just for everybody. So that it's important the people that we are attracting to our programs should have that characteristic in terms of being a teacher and the passion. And then the second one, that a 21st century teacher is one who has acute sense of powerful learning that resides in every child. A teacher that is able really to inspire and to incite and to motivate the learner. And then the third one, that the 21st century teacher is one who is able to resist the normalizing pressure of deliberating school culture. That this, I think, it is speaking to the agents, that a teacher should be agent of change and should not just accept things as they are at the school, especially in terms of the school structures, culture, and the environment there. And then the fourth one, that a 21st teacher is one that is alert to the technological demands. So in the sense that you should be able to adjust and adapt to the demand of the new centuries in terms of the technological education. We have been mentioning about education 4.0. And then the fifth one, that the 21st century teacher is the one who's hungry for personal growth. And really this one speaks to continuous professional development, that you should be able to upgrade your skills and continue learning, not stopping when you graduate from your initial program. The sixth, it's the one who inserts herself or himself in professional network that build confidence and expertise and resilience. So don't isolate yourself as a teacher for the 21st century. You need to build that network that can help you grow and also so that you can learn from others. In that way, you build your resilience as a teacher. And then the last one is that the one who's determined to change what is given as the situation in the classroom and even beyond the school. And I think this one is also speaking to the agents that you should be able not just accept the situation that it is, but you should be able to advocate for change, whether in terms of resources that you need or education itself, CPD and all those kind of things. And then moving to the respondent, Dr. Pomuti, basically she agreed to what the professor said, and however, in response to the issue of fix the base first, so she also challenged us in the sense that yes, we can do that, but we must do it in line of thinking in terms of the changing society, so that it can go in line together. And she also mentioned that there was an issue that was raised that there are policies, especially here in Namibia in our situation, that are already there, whether to teach us professional standards or competencies. So the question what she really raised is that what is the problem that we haven't implemented those policies? They are there, and she also showed us the booklets. And then, in her, I think really what I got from her is really that we need to find out what is already there in terms of teacher education policies, so that we can relook at it and maybe think of strategies how we can implement it. So in a nutshell, I think I will stop there. Thank you.
So this is the pilot we want to fly with. He knows how to keep time. Thank you very much. That was a great summary. We're going to move on to the groups where they were able to talk about these issues in phases. I think that's what I would call them, grade level groups, but I think you call them phases. Am I right? So with that said, one of the things that as a listener that you might want to think about are, what are the key points that these groups are making? Are there some themes that are cross-cutting through all phases, or are there some that are really unique to each piece? They have a challenge to try to, or to keep it within 10 minutes, even though they're talking about two themes. So I think our first, yes? I actually saved you for the end. You saved the best for the end. Because we were talking about themes 1 and 2, so I wanted them, that was my thinking. So I have not forgotten you, Dr. Kapenda, at all. So Lorena, are you, Ms. Ferris, are you talking for group 1? Okay. So I'll sit close to her. She's going to talk about, this was ECD and junior primary. So you got it.
Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The response on our question, the first question that we looked at was, what kind of teacher do we want for the 21st century? We decided, or we come up with the current selection of the ECD and junior primary program is not based on the characters of a person that is suitable for a ECD learner or junior primary learner. And what we would look for in such a teacher is a motivated and a passionate, innovative, creative, and a very patient teacher with the students. A teacher who is very efficient in the mother tongue, sports, and then also arts, that have the ability to work with different stakeholders, and that also have soft skills or people skills in order for parental cooperation to work well. What kind of program would we like to have in the 21st century? A program that is based on language and efficiency in the mother tongue, teaching the mother tongue specifically, multi-grade teaching, and good reading systems. Ability to be reflective and then also to find solutions to a problem. We also want to have a balance between theory and practice. And we spoke about micro-teaching, having micro-teaching sessions as a block period on the timetable. Learner-centeredness, to reflect on what we are doing well, to revisit our learning, for example, learning through play in the early childhood development. Assessment should be more reflective. We look at a mentor system that have access to, where a student have access to his or her previous lecturer that can come in and mentor that student maybe in the first year of teaching. For the student selection, we would like to go back and interview students to find the correct candidate that have the passion and the heart to work with ECD learners. We also feel that schools can help to select teachers. They can guide us because they monitor these students during SPS periods. A system that is more, or a program that is more supportive to learners who struggle with reading, and then have the competencies in ICT skills that will help the student to cope starting in their first year. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
So that was very interesting, very concise, and it was clear that your groups talked specifically about some questions and let us think about it programmatically. So thank you. Ms. Alexander, I believe you are speaking for the senior primary and junior secondary. Okay.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I have a long list here because our members were very talkative. So please bear with me. We took theme 1 and theme 2, and the questions under theme 1, it's 3 questions, and then under theme 2, 7 questions. But we have looked at the key points, and we have now then under each theme answer all the questions. So I will just then share with you the responses of the group. For question 1, the members feel that teachers should feel confident about the content. They should not feel threatened when they implement LCE, learner-centered education, and they should stand in front of the class, feel competent and confident. Then we have also a response where it was shared that teachers should continue, like they should be lifelong learners. So they should continue develop the subject matter. The teacher training program, students should be more often monitored, also to evaluate them for job readiness. And there was a suggestion in the 3rd year there should be already a system where students are evaluated to see whether they are ready and where they need guidance in their final year. Student teachers should also create knowledge through continuous research. And they should be, like the previous presenters also said, they should produce their own knowledge. At schools, it is experienced that qualified teachers still experience classroom management skills. And therefore, during teacher preparation, components should also be, classroom management should also be integrated within the curriculum, so that when teachers go out to schools, that they have these skills. In teachers, we would like to see that they have the relevant knowledge when they are appointed in different areas. They should have passion for teaching. They should be competent, problem solvers, committed, and they should be lifelong learners. I've said that before. What was also said is that teachers need digital knowledge. And teachers should strike a balance between content knowledge and skills. They should know how to teach. A concern was raised that teachers are not well prepared to teach the content, so they do not always know how to teach the content. And I think it was also said in the previous presentation, where maybe during teaching, that students be groomed to teach effectively. One of the learners, thank you for that, one of the learners also mentioned that what they experience is that teachers do not always have the skills to support learners, not only with the content, but they need also the soft skills to support learners. More competencies was raised, so like a professionalism. And also when teachers go out, students go out for teaching, that they should also have that skill to let the learners feel accepted in the class. That was also one of the learners that have raised that. It's very important that as teachers should plan effectively, and they should be able to use different strategies and also different teaching aids. Then during teacher preparation, student teachers need more knowledge about social issues so that they can link it also with what they will experience at schools. And if the curriculum of the teacher training program does not cater for that there should be then a link between faculties where expertise are invited to share these knowledge and skills, like for instance social workers that can also have a training or workshop with teacher educators or students before they go out teaching. One of the members feel that there should be a bridging course for student teachers so that they gain content knowledge, because it's very important, and sometimes it happens that students enter the teacher training program without the necessary content knowledge. So that is also important. A suggestion was also shared that why do we not start with the educational research project already in the first year, so that students gradually gain all the necessary skills and knowledge to continue with the research until the end of until the fourth year, where they have to finalize in the educational research project. I've mentioned the micro-teaching periods, that during that periods there should be a strengthening of skills. Those periods should be used to train teachers to teach more effectively. A concern was also raised that students often just learn to pass and not learn to learn. So when they go out, they do not have that. They did not meet actually the requirements to be ready for the teaching profession. And a suggestion was also that students should already start in their first year to have a portfolio, so that they can also do self-reflection and build up the skills and knowledge that they have gained, and measure themselves, that they can also see on which level they are in the first year, how they have grown second, third year, and at the end then show then competence, that they are ready for the teaching profession. it was also mentioned that when students go out for school-based studies and teaching practice, that teachers should be more supportive when student teachers are at schools, so that they guide the students, so that they can also work closely with one another to also even identify the areas that these student teachers need guidance of. We should also not forget that we have good current practices. We just need to strengthen those practices that we have and not always look at we do not have it or it is there. Let us just see what we have and that we strengthen it. Examples were mentioned like SPS system, the SPS when students go out. The portfolio that they normally have to submit, this portfolio that I talked that can be already from the first year, not only in SPS, in other areas also, so that they also strengthen, because there's a lack of self-reflection sometimes that we experience in our student teachers, so that they learn how to reflect, so that they can learn how to evaluate themselves and identify the areas that they need strengthening in. Then lastly, the curriculum should be, it's not lastly, it's the last one of theme 1. Do I still have time?
You have 45 seconds.
45 seconds. Okay, I will try to be as brief as possible if you can give me 15 seconds more. Then the last one is just streamline to avoid overlapping. That is not the curriculum. Look at the curriculum so that there's no duplication of content in different courses, but that we concentrate then on the most important ones that is important for the teacher training program. The second theme is also just strengthening research skills throughout the teacher training program from year 1. We should also look at different soft skills that needs to be instilled in students and see how it can be integrated in different courses. Collaboration among not only on camp or in the teacher training program, but with other institutions should be strengthened. And then look at the assessment, almost like somebody said this morning, can we have a transformed assessment system, where we not only focus, where we focus more on formative assessment than on summative assessment. I think I can just mention the last. There are 2 more. And then the last one, yes. Students should be prepared so that they work in different situations. Multicultural situations, we are in a situation where students are prepared, but that students work in different situations. Thank you, and sorry for the 1 more minute.
That's fine. So one of my roles was to keep time. That's what the dean stressed to me, so I am trying to honor that. And obviously that group took a lot of notes, had a lot of thinking, and I was starting to see some themes from what the earlier group said and some differences. So with that, we're going to hear from the spokesperson for senior secondary. And I'm not sure I recognize you, so I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Philemon. Oh, it is. I know you from. Never mind. We worked together up in Rundu in June. So I'll give you an extra map.
Okay. Afternoon, colleagues. I'm going to be very, very quick, and I've ticked off anything that was said earlier by the other scribes so that we really save time. But again, also my group was really talkative, and but I will provide the whole notes, I think. The first one is there was a feeling that we need to have students or graduates who are able to manage knowledge. It's very important. We can talk about these things. Just imagine when you can't even manage your own knowledge. How do you manage the knowledge of others? So this skill is very important. Ability to assess the 21st century skills. There is a need for us to bring in other things to make sure that we are able to assess the so-called 21st century skills, because they keep changing. Imagine after 3 years, you know, they evade us a lot. So somebody needs that. And in-depth knowledge in the content subjects, that theme is coming through. There's a need that we have graduates with good content knowledge, really, subject knowledge and so on. Participate in lifelong learning endeavors and create a reading culture for oneself. We can't be talking about lifelong learning when we don't read. Professor Johnson was talking about this this afternoon during lunch, just before lunch. Critical thinking, skills in the teaching methodology is very important. I also captured something related to graduates need strong IT skills, and there's a need for subject and general knowledge to find a praxis, and with that, IT knowledge embedded for our graduates. Commitment was also captured, it's very important. We can't recruit people who might have been conservers, for example, and then they move to education. So they will never have the commitment to the course of teaching. Application of skills is very important. We need graduates who have the competencies to apply or to bring to the classroom what they have acquired during their training. Also, emotional intelligence or maturity for graduates is very important. Interpersonal skills must be connected because it was said, I think, that interpersonal skills is very important for graduates so that they connect and empathize with the learners and connect that, of course, also to the needs of their learners. Self-initiative skills to come up with own projects. I was not so sure when you were trained as a teacher. I don't know what any other project one could really do. It did not come out. Self-initiative. If you are unemployed, what else can you do as somebody who was trained as a teacher? But it is something we can think about. Something again was there's a need to know the characteristics of secondary school learners. What is it that these people need? We need to be told about their profiles. Who are these people? What do they need? And then the faculty perhaps can then design a program tailored to their needs. Actually, I want to leave you with this. The Dean was talking about there's a need to bridge the current divide we have. Is it what schools have? Do we know what schools need? And if we don't know, what do we do? If we know, what do we do about it? So there's a kind of a need to bridge the divide between the two phases. Adaptability skills and versatile graduates are some of the skills needed for our graduates. Theme 2, constructing 21st century teacher education program was the theme around it. And the first one is university must study school needs and model. Of course, we have mentioned this already. Model their training towards what schools need. Cascading of other programs, such as education for sustainable development, for example, and then bring it into the training program. Someone mentioned something about there's a need to move from the paradigm of teaching to the paradigm of learning, perhaps, as we do the preparation program. And again, preparation programs must instill, and they must be grounded in innovation, theory and practice models. Some kind of integration is needed here. My APVC, actually I'm going to end with his point. Prof. Ricardo spoke about, let's study the local and the global aspects about what is needed, and then design a program around that. That is very important. And so one last thing is about the screening mechanism. We need to design something to get the right entrance into our preparation program. Thank you.
So that is how all the school people were talking about what this might be like when they were thinking from their own phases. And clearly the idea of support, the idea of passion, the idea of commitment came through all three groups, and the need to know how to teach. So with that, I want to, Dr. Kapenda, I had not forgotten you at all. It was very intentional to save you to be able to talk and report out on all the data that we heard. And so she's going to really talk about, kind of pull this together from how do those two themes also fit with what we know about what's happening in Namibian education?
Good evening, colleagues. I was asked to make a summary of a summary. That's very interesting. I'm looking at my notes and I'm thinking I should have worn my dean. Remind me of my first year in pre-calculus class. After the class, I could not read my own notes. But I hope I'll do a better job here. So that session was presented by Mr. Ninad Tomik, who gave us a summary of current research on education sector in Namibia. And the objectives was really to give a scope overview of the studies covered between 2014 to date, on study mainly supported by UNICEF on ECD, pre-primary, pre-education, secondary education studies. And he put emphasis where he stated that in Namibia we are very fortunate because there's knowledge creation which generated very rich data, although there's data phobia. And during this question session, some of the questions arise due to that. He went further to indicate that their studies were based on two approaches, the life cycle and the systems approaches. And the life cycle approach was explained on a continuum where it has three phases. The first part, which is the first 1,000 days of a child, and he said that is very important, especially to educators and teachers, followed by the second decade or the second window opportunity, followed by the adolescent phase, which he said is normally on adolescent brain development, and one could use that phase to support the development of the adolescent child at that second window opportunity. On the systems approach, he emphasized that education does not occur in a vacuum, and he also later went to talk about the dimensions. I took note of 3, which I'm sure that was used in their analysis of data. The first one is the enabling environment, especially the legislation and policies and access we have in Namibia, the system strengthening, namely the data management we have and the quality of teaching and learning, including things like the integration of ICT in education. And he presented 3 case studies. One was on enabling environment, where he reported on several studies, report like the survey to report toward a new Education Act in Namibia, 2016, a public expenditure review of the basic education sector, the 2014 report on the impact of incentive for recruitment and retention of teachers, and many other reports. And then towards the end, he gave some of the key findings like equitable delivery of quality education to all children and young people, the enabling environment to eliminate gender and other social disparities, innovative and cost-effective budget, plus many other key findings found from those reports. And then, of course, he gave us those rich data with graphs to show what has been covered in various regions in Namibia. And the way forward, he emphasized 3 main things: that data must speak the same language, the data we have must speak to the decision maker, and thirdly, the data must speak to our communities. And of course, there was a question and answer session, and some of the questions were raised were like, is there provision from UNICEF to engage stakeholder in engaging the data collected? To what extent is UNICEF is facilitating this process of engaging our stakeholders? And on the notion that Namibia is data rich, but data phobia, how is this impacting our community? And looking at the data we have, where do children with special need fall in those kind of data collected? And he tried to provide some answers to those questions. I hope I'll capture them very well. On the first question, he stated there's provision to engage people at grassroots level. For example, there's a policy to produce that document on EMIS yearly, if I'm not mistaken, and that document usually is available to schools and to any stakeholder who want to get access to those data. The data should not create fear, it should remove fear to the recipients about the question on data phobia. And on the 4th question he answered by saying to sensitize people when collecting data, because that question was about a student with special need. I think the person who asked the question was best feeling that the data are not revealing children with special needs. So he said that there is need to sensitize the people when collecting data, because I think you need, they need special training and skills in how to handle children with special needs when they are collecting data. I thank you.
So I want to thank all the respondents and scribes who took such copious notes, were able to share with the group and summarize for all of us to think about this day. And we really looked at the skills, competencies, knowledge of teachers and what quality teacher education programs will look like. So tomorrow we'll talk about what is it like to create an enabling learning environment, what is a quality teacher education, and look at ICTs. So with that, I'm going to say thank you to this group. Dr. Vallette, you are up to give closing remarks. Do you want to just have this group stay here and you can come straight up in the sake of time? And then we will all leave when you dismiss us. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I think we've come to the end of day one. I think we can all give ourselves a big round of applause. Okay, that's a round of applause, okay? And then you can sit and give blessings to the person that's there next to you. And we do this. Blessings, blessings, because you've all done a wonderful job. So you deserve dinner tonight with UNESCO. Do not disappear, please. Do go around to the room next door. I know we still have about 45 minutes, but I was thinking maybe, Carolyn, we could, if you are ready, we can just start, even though dinner may then just follow us afterwards. I think it's okay to do that. Otherwise, the day gets too long, and I'm just scared if we're going to give them that break, you may not find people coming to you to listen. Yeah, so I think we can just take our bags, maybe take a short 5-10 minute break, go to the toilet and so on, and then come back, and then Carolyn is going to do her thing that she does best. Okay? It's in Omotako 1, that is now combined Omotako 1 and 2 into a bigger room. So, thank you. See you tomorrow morning. I think we start at 8 tomorrow. Thank you. Okay, there's notes here. Who does these notes belong to? There's somebody's nice. This looks like a thingy that he was supposed to be on his gift. Oh, am I still talking if people are listening?